Hi everyone, this is Mrs. Eggerding, and I am going to instruct you a little bit on how to graph and adjust the window on your graphing calculator. Now, since this is a video, you can do this at your own pace. Pause when you need to, rewind if you need to, and definitely jot down some notes, maybe on the last page of your notebook, to remind you of some of these skills that you have learned. While the calculator that I have up here is the 84 Plus Silver Edition, my operating system might not look like yours, but that's okay because all of the buttons do the exact same thing. And of course, you can always ask your teacher if you have questions. So first off, the key buttons that we want to take a look at are on this screen. First, everything across this top row. Y equals is to enter equations. Window is where you can adjust your scale, which is the size of your X and Y axis. The zoom button does some quick adjustments. All the way on the right is the graph button, and above graph is something called table. And on my calculator it's in blue, so I press the second button to get to it. And then last but not least, there's a math button on the left hand side to get some special symbols that we might need, like absolute value. First place I'm going to go is the standard viewing window. Now the quickest way to get to the standard viewing window is to press the zoom button and then the number 6. When I do that, calculator automatically goes to there. When I press my window, I can see what those settings are. And the X min, X max tells me my X axis is going from -10 to 10. A scale of 1 means every integer there, it will give me a little tick mark. And the same thing on the Y axis. The resolutions we don't need to worry about right now. Alright, so when we graph lines or graph any equations, we want to make sure we see some key features. And so we're going to want to see both intercepts in the window. Now, there's a couple ways you can find out what's going to be a good window, and it is going to be a little bit of guessing and checking sometime. It's not exact, but the more you do it, the better you will be able to adjust your window quickly. We can use the table feature to find values. We can look at them and find the intercepts algebraically. And keep in mind, what I'm going to do isn't going to be an exact perfect window. You might have something slightly different, and that's okay. So I'm going to start by pressing Y equals, and I'm going to enter the equation 3, and for X we're going to go next to this alpha key, and I'm going to press X and then the subtraction button, 45. Since I know I'm in the standard window, I can just press graph. And when I press graph, I don't see anything. Okay. Well, we know there's something there. We typed it in. Well, I do know that my y-intercept is -45. So when I press the window button, a y-intercept is on the y-axis. So I'm going to arrow down to y-min, and I'm going to change it. Instead of -10, I'm going to put -50. Okay. -50 will allow me to see the -45, and then a little bit more. So now if I go ahead and press graph, I now see that part on the y-axis. I also see how thick this thing is, the y-axis. I lost the tick marks. Well, because it's doing from -50 to 10, it's making a tick mark for every integer. So that's 60 tick marks, and it makes it look a little thick. If that bothers you, and this is a total personal preference, in your window you can change your Y scale to something, maybe by 2s, or if you don't like 2s, you can change it by 5s. Now when I press graph, it's not as cluttered, but it could also be misleading that this is actually at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, -9 instead of -45. You got to pay attention to the scale, and the calculator doesn't tell you unless you're in window. All right, I'm going to go back to a regular scale because I don't like the misleading parts. All right, I'm almost done with this one. I am missing my x-intercept, and I do know it's further out here on the right. So I'm going to go to my window, and the right is the x maximum. And I'm going to try typing in 20. Okay. One thing I want to mention here is if you notice, I don't have to keep all of my dimensions symmetrical. I can just change one end of the axis to make it fit what I need to. And so now when I press graph, I can see both my y-intercept down here at -45, and I can see my x-intercept, and I think it's up there at 15. Okay, so for this one, I used what I knew about the intercepts to adjust things accordingly. Let's do one more. Now this one's going to be an absolute value graph, and the two pictures I have on the slide, the first one shows the picture in the standard window, and the bottom one shows what it really looks like. Okay. So first let's type this in. I'm going to go to y equals, and I want to get rid of this, so the clear button below the arrows, press clear, and that'll get rid of it. The symbol for absolute value is in this math menu. Pressing math gets us a lot of symbols. Up at the top it says math, and that's where I can get a cube root or change things to fractions. I want to arrow over to num, and number 1 right there, ABS, that stands for absolute values. So I press enter, and it gives me the absolute value symbol. I type in my x -3, and to get to the outside I arrow to the right to get to the outside, -18. Okay. Now since I know I messed with my window on the last one, I'm going to fix it doing a real quick pressing zoom and number 6 standard. Okay, so that's where I'm starting from. Here's where understanding transformations can help. I know on this equation that I have a vertex that's down 18. So in my window, I can change my minimum to say -20, and that should see my -18. So I'll press graph and see what this looks like. Not bad. I can see that vertex now. But it looks like there's a couple of x-intercepts both on the left and on the right, and I'm not exactly sure where they're at yet. So here's where I can use this table feature. Okay, so I'm going to press second, and I get this little arrow in the upper right hand corner, and then press the graph button, and it gives me a table of values, and it's an infinite table. These are ordered pairs. So if I scroll, press the up arrow, it gets me more and more negative. And I am looking for the x-intercept. Keep going, keep going. Ah, there it is. My x-intercept is when y equals 0, and so it looks like it's at -15. So that gives me a clue as to what I want to do with my x-min. Now if I scroll back down to get to the right and look for those, where's that value? Ah, there's my other one. When y equals 0, I have an x-intercept at 21. So by looking at the table, I know in my window, let me see, I want to make sure I include the negative, I think it was 15, and my maximum, let's go up to 25. And press graph, And there we go. I now have a graph where I can see both my x-intercepts and I can see my vertex. Okay, so I used what I knew about transformations to help get me this vertex. I used the table to look for the x-intercepts. So what I would recommend is taking these two lines here, y equals negative 2x minus 87 and y equals 1/5 x plus 3. See if you can adjust the windows where you can see both the x and the y-intercept. Go back and watch this video if you need to, or come on in for help and we will get everything straightened out. Thanks a lot.